one of the things I learned was to adapt to change, to embrace change. And I think that's very important for any of us is to learn how to embrace it. Because if we don't, we become stagnant and we end up basically dying off, so to speak, or the dream dies off. With me, I kept new ideas would keep popping in. We'd have, we have these things we can't go out. So what do? Well, we're looking at virtual events now. We're looking at this. We're looking at that. Okay, so how can I make, maybe a podcast is a way to do it. Maybe I can get it out that way a little bit better. Whatever. My mindset just continually started building on different things. And one of the thoughts that came during all this things that were going on, because I didn't have a lot of equipment, I didn't have a lot of things, was I have done much more with a lot less. And that had meant the world to me. It really helped me to put more in the thought of not really what I had, but what I could do with what I had, and even more.
Welcome to the Ridiculously Blessed podcast. I'm your host, Tim Jackson, and today I have with me Anthony Reed from the Kidney Trails team. Learn about what the Kidney Trails team is, what they do, the publishing company, and a little bit about Anthony himself. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to our guest today, Anthony Reed. Hey, Anthony, how you doing today?
I'm doing wonderfully well and exceeding great. This day gets any better. I think I'm gonna go outside and be tickled pink.
All right, all right. So, in a brief introduction to the people, kind of tell us who you are.
Who I am. Sometimes I wonder that myself. But just a real quick, short introduction of who I am and even where I came from back in 1990. And actually, when we're recording this, it's in December. In a December 1990, my parents actually flew down to Guatemala City, Guatemala, and wanted to adopt me, which was a wonderful opportunity. And then they brought me back here to the States and raised me as normally as they could. Pretty much an all American kid, I guess you would say. Different little things that would happen. We would do, I guess, the normal things most American kids would do, as far as, playing backyard baseball, things like that. Had a pretty good life up until the age of 18. Things were going well. I just graduated high school, end up having a stroke due to high blood pressure. After that, did try to get back on track where I should been. I really worked for a little bit and then didn't. I'm sure we'll get to that later on. Uh, Back in 2000 and that was in 2008. Life went good. 2009, 10, 11, 12, and then 2013, I ended up being diagnosed with end-stage renal disease, kidney disease, stage 5 kidney failure. Basically, my kidneys didn't work, and with that happening, I had to start dialysis within a few days. Thankfully, 4 years later, had a transplant and started my own company in 2020. When the pandemic hit, I was able to start my own company with Kidney Trails, and now here we are.
There you go. And I've had the pleasure also of being on your podcast. Anthony and I met, years ago. We worked at the same company and we worked together for a couple of days. And we just kind of
Hours, Tim.
a couple of hours. Yeah, I can't even say days. But we kept in touch over the years, and we were able to work together again. And I wanted to bring him on here to one let him tell you about his entire story. A lot of times when you have a business, we talk about the business aspect. Um, we don't get into what we've actually gone through. And the name of the show is Ridiculously Blessed. So Anthony has a story that's going to tell you, um, like he said, from the moment he found out what was going on in his body to where he is now, that is going to walk you through the trail of being ridiculously blessed and what that means. So, with that said, Anthony, when you first started having, the issues and you didn't know what it was, kind of take us back through that. What was the mindset like then?
Well, if I really go back to where it all started, that would be in 2008 when I had the stroke. And I didn't know exactly what was going on. Uh, I was doing normal thing. Well, normal if considered playing two-hand touch football in the middle of a parking lot is normal when it got a little rougher. We had played that the night before. Things were going great. The thing is, I was definitely a lot bigger than I am now, and I also wasn't taking care of myself as I should have been. I was eating things that I shouldn't be eating. That was higher in things that it shouldn't be higher in, far as sodium and things like that. Went to bed that night. Woke up the next morning, and I felt one side of me felt perfectly normal. The other side of me felt really off, and wasn't really sure what was happening. But I was 18 years old, pretty stubborn. Didn't go into the ER till later on, and come to find out we had a stroke due to high blood pressure. And that high blood pressure was caused by, of course, not eating like I should, not taking care of myself like I should, partially. And there was other things underlying that we were not really aware of at the time. And so the physician gave me the medication, said, "Here we go, we got you out." The one thing about a stroke that I think most people wouldn't know, and if you don't know, is it can take away your feeling from a side. It can make one side not work as well as the other. And with me, it did that, and because I remember sitting down at the piano because I play a little music every now and again, and I went to move my right hand, and I could barely do the single notes. So it really started to affect my movement. Obviously, now, thankfully, I don't have any issues with that. But that's kind of where it all started because I was given the medication that I need to be taken. But I'm 18, 19 years old. Who needs medication? Who needs doctors? I don't need any of those people. I mean, we've all been young and need a lot more wisdom than we have, even though we think we have everything we need. Uh, Ended up decided just to throw away the medication, which do not recommend that to anybody to just quit no matter what. Just, you know, talk to your medical care team before you do anything like that. And it caught up with me, and because during that time it was 18, 19, 20, 21 is when I'd started to work where you were working at the time, you know. And so we're 21, I was 21, and then 22 is when I found out that I had kidney disease, and that was brought on by that high blood pressure that I did not take care of. And I guess one of the first things that I would see is I always look at my journey where I'm at now, all those the past or the past behind me, what I've grown through is really lessons. And I think you've talked about a lesson or a lesson,
Hmm.
something of that nature. And it really taught me one of the first lessons that I learned that was has been a major impact in my life was if you don't learn the lesson the first time, you are doomed to repeat it. And more than likely, you are going to end up paying twofold than what you originally would have done.
Right.
And that's what happened when I went to the ER in 2013. Not only did I have high blood pressure, but I had stage 5 kidney disease. Basically, my kidneys did not work at all. And one thing is, if your kidneys don't work, just for your audience, for the audience sake, Tim, is if your kidneys don't work, it can't get rid of all those toxins, those things that could build up in your body. And so slowly it's slowly causing death. It's slowly killing you. So you have to have a way to get that out. I think when I went in and I got checked out, they said my kidney function was 3 to 5%. So it wasn't even, an empty battery had more life than my kidney had.
Wow.
And so we ended up, they said, "You got two choices. What do you want to do? You want to do dialysis?" I didn't do dialysis that day. And I ended up going on dialysis later on that week. They said, had I not done dialysis when I did, my parents would have more than likely found me in my bedroom, where I fell asleep and never woke up again.
Oh, wow. Wow. And that's a lot to take on at that age. I mean, I just couldn't imagine saying, "Hey, your life's about to change." So, again, at that point, what's the thought process? Things are about to change. You're in unknown territory. How does one get through that?
Well, if I look at that, I'm going to go back, at age 22. I have to go back to when I was age 16 because when I was age 16, I'd been working with my uncle and he owned a plumbing business. And one of the things he always did when we got in the van together, and I hated it at the time, is he started putting on these CDs. You know, you might recognize some of the names. Your audience might recognize some of the names. The Zig Ziglar, the Napoleon Hill, the Jim Rohn, the Les Brown, the Eric Thomas, all these different ones. And instead of listening, I'd grab my back then MP3 players, in the little corded headphones, put them in just so I wouldn't hear because I wanted to hear my cool sounding music. But him constantly doing that, eventually I got interested. So about age 18, 19, I actually started to get into it. I started to listen to those myself. One of the first ones I listened to was Zig Ziglar on how to sell. And that's when I had moved to when I'd worked with the company you had worked with. You know, I want to learn how to sell better to be a better presenter. So I started learning that and started to, I guess, train my mind really. So when I got to this point, you know, my mind had been trained and still, and it never quits. You know, I'm always learning something from somebody, listening to different things, reading books. We ended up getting, when I was diagnosed, one of the first thoughts that tried to enter my mind was, you're going to die. That there is, you have absolutely no chance that you're going to make it through this. You know, when I looked at one of the brochures, I remember seeing somebody on a picture of somebody portraying a person on a dialysis machine. I had no clue what it was, and I remember saying, "I don't want to be there,"
Right.
but I really didn't have a choice, and it started to wear on my mind. But that training from age 16 that I was given started to really take root, started to really help me through some of the thoughts like, and Zig said, "You were born to win." So even though I'm in this situation at age 22, very young, uh, that thought would still go through my mind. No matter what, Anthony, you were born to win. Or in my case, not only was I born, but I was adopted to win as well. Being adopted, so I had a little bit more. There was a reason why. And so I really started to utilize that training that I had from those individuals and my uncle, who really is my mentor, one of my mentors, and somebody that's encouraged me from then, really started to take hold and help me to pull myself up out of that. And it wasn't easy throughout, you know, because I was on dialysis for 4 years. It was not easy, but that really gave me the help that I needed during that time.
Now, being on dialysis, it's a timing process. Tell me what are some of the things that you would do during that time where you're sitting there? A lot of things can run through your mind. So, what how did you spend your time during the treatments?
Well, the first thing is there's a couple different ways to do dialysis. Some you can do every day. I did what was called in center hemo, which means I would go into a center 3 days a week, either Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. We always generally had Sundays off, except around Christmas because they would close Christmas Day. So you think 3 days a week you got to go in? Well, it's not just 3 days for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It's 3 days. Generally, the time is my time is 3 hours and 45 minutes. So, and I challenge anybody, any even in your audience, I would challenge them to go to your chair, sit down for 3 hours and 45 minutes, 4 hours, and not get up because you couldn't get up. You can't really move because you know the way they had to do it, you had to put needles in my arm, and so I'm sitting there, can't move. I can move my left hand, and that's it. Thankfully, I'm left-handed, so ways I would spend my time is I would draw. I would try to pass the time by, you know, drawing different characters, different things like that. Listen to music would be a great thing. Once again, going back to those speeches, those different things, I would listen to that, read books. I actually did schooling too. I actually did some trade school while I was in the chair, trying to utilize that time because, you know, that's something that is very precious is time. And I guess the plus side of that is that I had 3 hours and 45 minutes, or pretty much in my case, by the time everything, you had about 12 hours a week of free time that I could use to enhance my learning. And so I started to utilize that in that way and started keeping my mind busy. It would take my mind off of dialysis and get my mind where I needed to be.
And now, looking at now, you have a family. So, um, tell us at what point did you have to explain to your family, hey, this is what's going on, this is what we have to do. And like you said, I remember you telling me the story about dating your wife. Kind of let us into that a little bit. What was that like?
So my wife and I met at church, and she knew that I was on dialysis, but she had no clue what dialysis was. She just knew that I was sick because even though somebody that's on dialysis, they may look normal, they are sick. It's something that you don't generally see. There's a lot of things they're facing that most people can't see. So when we started dating, she started to learn about dialysis. So she would come into the center and visit me, and she goes, "So you're hooked up to this machine for how long? Can you get up? Can you do this? Can you do that?" It's like, no, no, I got to do this and that. So she started to learn about it by actually coming into the clinic. I know, and nowadays, being with the pandemic and everything that's been going on, visitation can be limited in different medical places. But at the time, she was able to visit me and kind of learn it. She would come to the doctors and ask the nephrologist questions. She would ask different things. She said, because it wasn't long. I think we started dating in September of 2014. We got engaged in October, and we got married in December of 2014. So she was trying to learn as much as she could within those 3 or 4 months. And then afterwards, she was really involved with taking care of different things. She actually got access to where she could see what was going on, what my levels and stuff were, and then she would start getting after me. Being a caring and good loving wife that she was, she'd cared for me that I would do what was right. So she knew it, and she took a chance. And I think that's with anything. Everything is risky, and she took a chance. She risked it because I was more than just dialysis. I didn't let that define me. There was something deeper there. And so she started to learn it. Of course, my parents knew about it. My cousins and my uncle did know about it, and he kind of understood it a little bit better than most because I would talk to him a lot. A lot of people really didn't understand what was going on. They just knew I went in and came out and everything was all good. And a lot of times, it, I hate to kind of say this, but I'm going to. A lot of times, people did not want to hear what was going on. So-called friends, different ones, would not want to hear it because I guess it would depress them too much, or they didn't know how to help. I think part of it was they didn't know how to help somebody else with that.
Right.
They've never been there, and and that's hard because you want to talk to somebody else about what's going on, and they're uninterested. They really don't want to hear it, and it's because it's not no fault of theirs. It's just they don't know how to respond.
Hmm.
So that was a challenge during that time, and but thankfully, we had some people that did wanna listen, and even those, far as when I was in the clinic, I would see other people that were running on dialysis, and they would come up and talk to me as well. And they'd say, "Hey, look, I learned this from here, and this helped me." And it wasn't about the dialysis, it wasn't about all the different medications and all this. It was life's lessons that they were teaching me.
Right.
One of them would always say they would always say, "I'm greatly blessed and highly favored. Remember that every morning." He says, "Yeah, you're on dialysis, but you're greatly blessed and highly favored. Just keep that in mind." And it really helped to get me in a better mindset than where I could have been.
Right. And in that lack of understanding from others is kind of what drove you to get started with Kidney Trails, I would say. Kind of explain to us what exactly Kidney Trails does and how did you come up with the concept?
Far as the concept, it was 2014. I've been diagnosed in 2013, 2014. Being that I had been listening to all these different individuals with these success stories on how to, I guess you would call self help, however you would call it. Um, I remember going online and saying, "Look, there's got to be somebody out there that's had kidney disease or dialysis that can teach me those different things that go in more depth, to be able to teach me the different philosophies, the different success stories." And I couldn't find a single thing. I checked site after site after site. I couldn't find anything. I was like, "Where is it? Why isn't something out here like this?" I was hungering for more. I wanted something more than what I was getting. And I remember sitting in the chair, and I was in dialysis, and I was on the computer looking up things, and I remember it was like a call. And the call of life came in. It was so gentle. It wasn't a big loud voice. It wasn't in the form of a great wind or an earthquake or fire. It was a still small voice that said, "It's not out there because you haven't created it. This is for you to create, not for anybody else." And I remember just sitting there in the chair, and tears were streaming down my face. I'm hoping people aren't able to see me, but I'm sure some of them did. Was wondering what was going on because I realized that that calling was placed in my life, and that that was what I was supposed to do. So that's kind of where everything, as far as where I felt the call to do what I do. And I think whatever we're doing, there is a calling for what we're doing. If we're doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing, there is a calling that takes place. It's not something that we go out and some people may somewhat discover it, but along the way, there's a call. And that's what ended up happening. And, 2014 went by. I ended up getting involved in some different organizations because I really didn't know what to do. Did some things with that, 2014, 15, 16, 17. I got transplanted. Things were great. 18, 19, and 17, 18, 19 were big years for me because I'd been public speaking as far as teaching a class about kidneys prior to that, 2014 and above. That was one of the, I guess you would say, volunteer opportunities I had. But in 17, 18, 19, I actually started to do public speaking and public speaking around the nation at different events. And 2020 was looking like a phenomenal year because I had about 9 to 10 speaking gigs that I had planned out, and that was already signed and everything. We were getting ready to go out, and of course, the pandemic hits. So when the pandemic hits, everything stops. All the meetings, everything is just completely gone. And I said, "There's got to be another way." And it's like, you remember that you're supposed to do this. Now's the time. I had tried it in 2018, in 2019. I tried to do what Kidney Trust is doing now, but I had those learning lessons along the way. Basically, they didn't even get up off the ground. And I said, "Well, I've tried it before, but well, I try it again because this time it's your time now. This is the time to just go for it." And so 2020, it was July 2020 is when we started Kidney Trails and started off as a personal blog. And before I know it, I had somebody come on as a guest author, just sharing a little bit different perspectives. And since then, we've grown to several guest authors. We have authors for not only just Kidney Trails, we have Kidney Trails Publishing, we have the KT Broadcasting Network, and so many other different things going on. It's one little thought, that call is what it's grown from.
What do you think, looking back, what do you think was the turning point for you? What triggered you to say, you know what, this is the time?
The need, the need. Because my mind went back in 2020. My mind went back when I was the one in the chair that was searching. I said, "There's got to be somebody else searching for this." And of course, with everything shut down, it was more than ever needed because there was no, so many things had been canceled, so many things had changed. And the other part to that is when it comes to all that is I felt like dialysis prepared me for that time because that was a huge change in my life. All the different things, you know, I never knew when a transplant would come. Thankfully, we had that. So 2020, we were in this place that nobody knew when it was going to end or if it was going to end or when it's going to end. And I was, in this time, it's like, you know what, I want to steal one of your lines. I'm kind of built for this. And so, one of the thoughts that I kept coming out is everybody's like, we don't know what's going to end. I said, remember this. It's something I learned, and I think it's very important. I learned when I was waiting on a transplant is remember this, you're always one day closer. Once the day ends, you can wake up, you can, before you go to bed, you say, I'm one day closer to that goal. I'm one day closer to achieving that dream. I'm one day closer. We're one day closer to this pandemic being over. And there was no end in sight. I said, but that's what it was with transplant. There was no end in sight. So I was able to utilize that and start putting those in the blog as well.
If you're enjoying this episode of Ridiculously Blessed, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. You and I, we talk on a regular basis, I would say. And one of the things that we talk about is mindset. So, in the midst of a pandemic, you launch your business or expand your business, and things aren't normal, but you're starting to grow. How did you see your mind change throughout that time?
Mm. There were so many different things that I didn't expect, and even though I'd been taught sometimes when it happens, you're still not really expecting it. But my mind changed in a way that keeping my mind on the goal. And the funny thing about it, we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? We have businesses, sad to say, shutting down, and here I'm getting ready to start a new business. The funny thing is, one of the things I learned was to adapt to change, to embrace change. And I think that's very important for any of us is to learn how to embrace it. Because if we don't, we become stagnant and we end up basically dying off, so to speak, or the dream dies off. With me, I kept new ideas would keep popping in. We have these things we can't go out. So what do? Well, we're looking at virtual events now. We're looking at this. We're looking at that. Okay, so how can I make maybe a podcast is a way to do it. Maybe I can get it out that way a little bit better. Whatever. My mindset just continually started building on different things. And one of the thoughts that came during all this things that were going on, because I didn't have a lot of equipment, I didn't have a lot of things, was I have done much more with a lot less. And that had meant the world to me. It really helped me to put more in the thought of not really what I had, but what I could do with what I had and even more. And started to find out, I could do this and I can do that. And so the business just started growing. And now I'm at where I'm at. I have a great team behind me. That's not even, I don't, let me reverse that. They're not behind me. We're walking together. I have a great team that's walking together for a common purpose and a goal, and that is conquering these unknown territories of kidney disease, things that are real life scenarios. We're not about while there's certain aspects to it. I let everybody else deal with the medical stuff. We're dealing with educating patients on how to live a better life, whether through the lessons, through the blog, through the podcast, whatever it may be. Giving them encouragement, motivation, hope, education, however we do it and get them to that next peak in life because life to me, especially with the journey, it's like a mountain and you climb up and you hit a peak and it looks great, but you realize you got to keep climbing up and up and up. So that was another thing and that I've utilized, and that's kind of where everything's kind of based out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And now looking at Kidney Trails, the broadcasting company, the publishing company, you have the summit coming up, which we haven't really talked about it yet on this podcast, but the summit is coming up. Um, with all that in mind, where do you see it all going?
Man, that's a hard question. I just got asked that today too. Um, I see it going up, up, and up. That would be the best way that I would see it is just keep going up, keep growing, up and up and up. Uh, I was talking to one of my teammates today. I was like, "Where is this going?" And they say, "It's going great. It's going up. You got to keep that mindset, because so many different things are happening. We've got the summit, which is going to be a unique thing in itself, being that we're bringing people that have actually faced kidney disease, not just me, but other speakers that have either faced kidney disease or transplant, and they're bringing the lessons that they learned. We're not going to be talking about like the medical stuff, but we're going to be talking about, somebody's talking about motivation, somebody's talking about speaking life into them, somebody's maybe talking a little bit about donation and different things. But it is definitely encouraging. It's what you see with the virtual summit is what y'all see with the virtual summit is what I saw when I was in that chair.
Mm. See, and that's a blessing in itself to see your vision played out right before your eyes. Like what you thought of in the chair, and you were like, "Man, I've got all of these ideas." You're seeing it play out in your everyday life. So the next question I have is about blessings or lessons, like we talked about, what do you feel like was the biggest lesson you've learned throughout all this?
There's so many. That's the thing. There's just so many different things that dialysis taught me. That one that I originally we started out with was, if you don't learn the lesson the first time, you're bound to repeat it, and then it's going to be worse off the second time. So I learned that lesson. I've learned, how to keep a good mindset. Even to the point when I was in dialysis. Here's another great lesson that I learned was I didn't let somebody else's thoughts of what was going on determine where I was going to be. I remember I was in dialysis. One of my levels was extremely high, and it doesn't look good when your levels are that high, especially that one. And it can cause uh, very horrific consequences, even unto death. And the physician had told me, he said, if something doesn't change within 6 months, you're going to be into the scenario, and that can cause death. And then my mindset was, I've got 6 months to live to overcome that. And it really showed me that the battle of dialysis in any disease, really, and anything I've seen, I've talked to a lot of different people and discussed it with a lot of those that have faced different things, is battle's right here in the mind. 99% of it's in the mind. The 1% is everything else you see. And if you keep that in perspective, you realize you've got to keep this up to keep this up.
Good point. Good point. Good point. And now, next, your life is a living blessing. So tell me, what's the biggest blessing that you can get from all of this?
Biggest blessing that I can get or that I've gotten.
That you've gotten, the biggest blessing that you've gotten, I would say.
Okay, yeah, because I was gonna go somewhere else with that. um, I would have to say, first and foremost, my faith has been increased through it all, and that is one of my biggest blessings. Is my faith has been increased, and far as with that, my family, to be a dialysis and transplant recipient, to be married, to have 3 kids. It's heard of, but not as often. That's a big blessing. And then to have my friends have the business and meet people like you, Tim, and to talk to you.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. So Anthony, I will say this, man. I've had the pleasure of seeing your business grow over the last few months, and man, it is crazy. Like, I do not want your planner or your schedule. You can keep that. I don't need it. But to watch it grow couldn't have happened to a better person. So, man, I'm looking forward to what's next for you, and I'm looking forward to seeing that planner just completely destroyed and some new stuff added in there. Like you said, the team is growing. You're getting blessings every day, and you led with your heart. You led with your passion, and that's the winning. That's the winning sauce, I would say. Is you led with your passion, and you've benefited, and other people have benefited from it, and it has nothing to do with let's say it doesn't have everything to do with kidney disease, because people who don't have kidney disease can hear your words of encouragement and read your blogs and listen to your podcast, and they get a tremendous blessing from it as well, because you're treating the mind um, while people are getting treatment for kidney disease.
Yeah, I would look at it that way. A lot of things is what I say is lessons of life, and we all face something. I've had people ask me, "Well, how in the world do I talk to somebody that has kidney disease?" I said, "Well, haven't you been through something in your life that's been challenging? Utilize that as your experience." I said, "It doesn't all have to be the same. Somebody doesn't have to go through dialysis to be able to teach somebody about life, right?
Right.
I mean, if they've learned the lesson, you really don't have to be on dialysis to teach them those lessons. But it does help, but you don't have to be." But I've told that individual, I said, utilize your own experiences. They said, but I don't know exactly. I said, do you want to go down to the deepest, darkest place in your life? I said, because that's where your greatest lessons are, that you can learn from that and then apply it and teach that to others that are facing their deepest, darkest valley, so to speak. or in my case, where I call it the valley in the mountains, um, you can utilize that to plot for that, and it helps them tremendously.
I agree. I agree. So now, next, we talked a little bit about the virtual summit. If you could share with us what the virtual summit is, when it's happening, and how people can find out more information or stay in touch.
Okay, so the virtual summit is happening April 27th and the 28th. It's going to be 2 days filled with encouragement, motivation, lessons of life, valuable information for you wherever you're at. You can have kidney disease, may not, you may be an entrepreneur, you may have kidney disease, you may be in the medical field, you may be in the renal field, in the pathology field, wherever you're at, this will be able to help you to be able to learn lessons of life, but also to help those around you that you can share that with. One of the sneak previews of the summit is that uh, talking to your audience, Tim, that Tim Jackson will be one of the featured speakers there, and to be able to teach some of the things that he's learned. It's mm, he's learned some great lessons that will help you along the way. And we're really excited because not only do we have speakers, but we're going to have social networking sessions where you'll be able to talk to other individuals, be able to share some of your experience, get connected with other people in different industries as well. Uh, you'll also have the opportunity to, let's see, there could be a potential of a live podcast being done as well that some people could potentially have the opportunity to kind of hop in on.
There you go. There you go.
So,
Lots going on, man. It's exciting. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear everybody's I know some of the speakers, and I'm telling you, audience, stay tuned. I'm telling you, you've got to be or hear this event, see this event. It's going to be amazing. Okay, Anthony, so where can everybody find you and the Kidney Trails team?
well, you can visit us on our website at www.kidneytrails.com, and that has the information. That's got the blog, that's got the publishing company as well. We also have the summit page up there as well, so they can find more information on that. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and LinkedIn. You can find us all across all those social media platforms. So,
All right, audience, there you go. You've heard from Anthony. So look him up, join the team, follow the team, make sure that you interact with them. You're going to get a lot of information, a lot of motivation, a lot of encouragement. So, to finish out the day, the stage is yours. Give us some closing words of encouragement. The platform is yours. Let me get set. Let me set the screen for you, so it's just you. They don't want to talk to me right now. All right, give us some closing words.
all right, to each and every one of you, I don't know where you're at in life or what you're facing, but I do know this one thing, that every step that you take is bringing you one step closer to the next peak. So be encouraged because that next peak, the view is worth it.
There you go. There you go. Again, thanks Anthony for being on. Um, anytime you have anything going on, come on back. Tell us, hey, what other blessings are going on in your life. Um, it's it's amazing to watch you guys grow over there with the team. I get to see the team grow firsthand. So man, I'm telling you, when all of this comes out and people get to see the team work, man, they're gonna be blown away.
They will, and I'll say this: I'm going to be biased. Actually, I don't have to say that because they're the team that I work with. I've got the best team in the world.
There you go. There you go. All right. Thanks, Anthony. I appreciate you
All
being
right,
on the podcast today and look forward to seeing what's next for you guys.
sounds great. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate the invite.
Thank you for watching the Ridiculously Blessed podcast. Find more episodes on YouTube at Ridiculously Blessed Podcast.